Now, I've been reading this story, and apparently there's a lot of content creators that's unwilling to talk about this, or maybe they just not familiar with what's going on in the streets. But I didn't even see anybody that was reporting on it at all. Now, this woman's name is Barbara Smiles. Barbara Smiles, and she was the head, let me say this again, talk about bag fumbling. She was the former head of Facebook's diversity, equity, and inclusion. Let me say that one more time. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, and apparently she's pled guilty to stealing $4 million. I'm going to be reading the super chat shortly. But let me go ahead and give y'all a little bit of insight on what's going on before we deep dive on Monday about her. Let's do it like this. Former head of Facebook, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusions. Her name was Barbara Smiles, and she admits that she embezzled $4 million. Let me say it again. $4 million from the company. This is her. Don't let a smile in the face fool you. According to Business Insider, the former top diversity and equity and inclusion manager at Facebook has pled guilty to embezzling millions from the social media company as a part of a sprawling kickback scheme. Why we always got to finesse? Even in corporate America, listen, I know that there was a lot of finessing with the PPP loans. I know it's a lot of finessing with the unemployment insurance. I know y'all been finessing each other with the TREF fund and the all of these other funds that y'all keep getting people to donate to, and you keep telling them you're going to give them 10 and 20 and 30% on their money and all of this other type of stuff. I know that people have been feeling finessed for a long time. But fam, you already made it into the company based off of not being able to qualify and being on the diversity and equity and inclusion. And now on top of that, you want to do a kickback scheme at a major tech corporation, A, as though they're not going to catch you. And then B, you got a good job. When you get a good job in corporate, one thing I've always known for sure, is that no matter what, you always, I don't care if your business go belly up, I don't care if everything get messed up, I don't care if your money is toe up, I don't care what happened. Under no circumstance, and when I say no circumstance, I mean no circumstance. Under no circumstance do you ever mess up the bag. None. Zero. Zilch. Nada. You always have to have something to come back to or something to fall back on. You always have to have something to come back to or something to fall back on. You never mess up the thing that you most closely tied to. Why would you do that? If that is the thing that pay the bills, if anything ever happens, no matter what, if all of my real estate go bust and I get kicked off of social media and my web development company absolutely fails and all of this other type of stuff, guess what I can always do? Go and make $500,000 in corporate America. I will always be able to make $500,000 in corporate America. You never, ever, under any circumstance, fumble the bag. Never, ever. They say former top equity and diversity. That's because it's a stupid title anyway. Kickback scheme. Federal prosecutors announced this week. Barbara Furlow Smiles and led the DEI initiatives at Facebook, now called Meta, so she was there for 4 years. 4 years. 4 freaking years. Furlow Smiles diverted more than $4 million from Facebook by linking payment apps to her Facebook credit card so they could tie it back to you. So you know that you're not going to get back, you can't get from it because it's going to be a digital footprint that goes back to you. Paying out charges to fake vendors, the U.S. attorney said. She knowingly devised and intended to devise a scheme and artifice to defraud Facebook. So you're going to defraud the very person that's paying your bills. Okay, cool. To defraud Facebook and obtain money and property by means of materially false and fraudulent pretenses, representations, and promises, and by omission of material facts. It goes on to say she'd submit the charges as false expense reports. Jesus Christ. False expense reports. Then have vendors give her the money in cash or by transferring funds to her husband's account. Now, some people may say, well, Anton, what do you mean her husband's account? Who was her husband? The sucker that wanted to participate in it, that let his woman lead them down into this stupid space that they in right now? Yep, that was the husband. The husband is the guy that was the fool. But guess what? I didn't just look at this and I said, okay, well, this is another woman that is finessing similar to the woman that finessed Amazon, and they out here doing all of this stuff like that. This ain't just that. It's not just that. I did a little bit of research. But before we get into the research, well, let me go and find out her husband. So I go and I throw her name in Google or in YouTube, and guess what the first thing that popped up for me? Barbara and Ernest Smiles introduced Smile Shields product, fearless business models, and more. And they showed up and they was able to pitch their product and have a conversation during the pandemic on the Breakfast Club. On the Breakfast Club. Yes, her and her mans. Y'all know how y'all be doing with the power couples and all of that type of stuff. Her and her mans was on the Breakfast Club talking to them with their shields on, making sure that they had a conversation. Yes, they did. Oh no, you don't believe me though. You don't want to believe me. In the morning, look at DJ Envy up there with his mask and his shield on. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. DJ Envy up there with his mask and his shield on, having a conversation. Look at them. Look at her and her mans. He got his chain on, his laid on. Oh. Her and her man was pitching smile shields during the during the pandemic. But let me be clear. Just because they were on the Breakfast Club does not mean that the Breakfast Club is liable or that they are guilty or anything like that. I'm just saying that these people are so easily able to get on top of these things and all of that type of stuff. But guess what? From 2017 through 2021, she was finessing Facebook with the kickback scheme. And then they came up with another idea and pitched their business, and then they pitched it like they was on top of things. Man. Smile shields. Let me get back to it. It says that she submit false charges as false expense reports, then had the vendors give her the money in cash or by transferring the funds to her husband's account. Associates paid cash kickbacks in person by... See, and she in Georgia. She down there in Atlanta. I kept wondering, and I always was trying to figure out, how do all of these people, why is Atlanta so full in the daytime? I've always been trying to figure that out. Why are all of these people driving around in Atlanta and everybody got money, but ain't nobody got no job in Atlanta? Well, everybody's cars is getting repossessed. Also, on top of that, everybody is getting kicked out of their house because wasn't nobody paying no rent. And everybody was scamming. Everybody was doing cashback, kickback scams, diverted over to my husband's account or whatever, and now they had to plead guilty. Says associates paid kickback cash in person or by Federal Express or by mail sometimes, wrapping the cash and other items such as T-shirts. We are cooperating with law enforcement on the case regarding the former program manager and will continue to do so. It wasn't enough to just make six figures. Now you had to make $4 million. Good God almighty. Prosecutor said in court documents that Furlough Smiles used her position at Facebook to bring vendors. So listen, think about this, y'all. People that didn't qualify to get a real job at Meta, Facebook, formerly known as Facebook. You think about this, and this is why this is so dangerous, why we got to stop doing it based off of the color of your skin. She used her position at Facebook to bring in vendors who were owned by friends and associates. You can't get right. Once Facebook signed off to onboarding them, she would inflate the expense reports to make extra money she had the vendors send back to her. You can't make this shit up, bro. I'm sorry. Excuse my language. You can't make this up. So you got in based off of your color. They let you in, and then they let you pick the vendors. Your vendors was your friends, and then this is the way that you finesse the company out of $4 million. It cost Facebook over $4 million just in expenses. That ain't even got nothing to do with salary. That ain't got nothing to do with the fact of onboarding you, healthcare, benefits, or whatever. It cost Facebook alone $4 million in finesse money just to be a part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion because y'all was out there marching for Black Lives Matters. In these reports, she falsely claimed that her associates or their businesses provided goods and services to Facebook for various programs and events when in fact they had not. Y'all ain't even do nothing. In these reports, among those involved in her scheme were her relatives, just like an N-word. Just like an N-word. Was her relatives, friends, former interns from a previous job, nannies, babysitters, a hairstylist, her college tutor. She used the fraud to pay $10,000 to an artist for specialty portraits, more than $18,000 for preschool tuition. Good God Almighty. She even involved relatives, friends, and other associates in all her crimes, all to fund a lavish lifestyle through fraud rather than hard and honest work. She will be sentenced, and I will be sitting in the courtroom there on March 2024, prosecutor said. March 2024. All right, y'all note that because I need to make sure that I remember the date. Got in on diversity, equity, and inclusion and finesse Facebook. Shout out to Facebook, man, for being a woke company that got finesse out of $4 million. That's money out of the investors in Mark Zuckerberg's pocket. That's what you get.